In this build along video, we're going to be building a support frame for our 6-volt battery box. After you've opened FreeCAD, create a new part in the part design workbench, switch over to the tasks tab, create a body, create a sketch, and we'll create it on the XY plane. Choose OK. First thing that we need to do is choose a size for our battery box. I'm going to create a box here that's symmetric around the origin. So I'm going to click on the top left corner, the bottom right corner, and I'm going to click on the origin. I'm going to use constrain symmetric. I'm going to make the top width of this 75 millimeters, and I'm going to make its height 64 millimeters. And now that our sketch is fully constrained, we can close it. And we're going to pad this sketch out to 25 millimeters. Now that we've got that done, we're going to create a cavity in the middle of this box. So click on the top face and click on Create Sketch. And we're going to grab the Create Rectangle tool. And we're just going to draw a square inside of our box. We're going to make this one symmetric around the y-axis. So click on the top left corner, click on the top right corner, click on the y-axis, and click on Constrain Symmetric. So now that our box is centered, let's set the width of it. And we will set the width to 63 millimeters because our battery box is just under 63 millimeters. And let's set the height of it to 58 millimeters because our battery box is about that. Now we need to center our box inside of our cube. So let's grab the Create External Geometry tool and click on the top edge of our box. And we're going to set the distance between the two boxes to 3 millimeters. And so now that we've done that, our new sketch is fully constrained and we can close out of the Sketcher workbench. We're going to create a pocket that goes all the way through our cube. And since our cube is 25 millimeters, our pocket needs to be 25 millimeters. Now we need to be able to push the 6-volt battery box into our frame. And so we're going to lower the front edge of the box. So begin by clicking on the left-clicking on the top face of the box, or I guess the support frame, and click on Create Sketch. And we're going to use the External Geometry Reference tool, and we're going to click the top line, and we're going to click the top inside line, right-click to clear the tool, and we're going to grab that Create Rectangle tool, and we're going to, just to show you the long way of doing this, we're going to create a box here. The quick way would have been to click right on the external geometry line there, but we're going to click on the bottom left-hand corner, and we're going to click on the line, and we're going to click on Constrain Coincident. We'll do the same thing for that top corner and the top line. And now we have our box constrained to the width of the front edge of our frame. Let's now grab that bottom left vertex and click on the end of that line segment. So they're both selected in green. And let's click on our Constrain Coincident tool. So now our edge is locked to the left-hand side. We're going to do the same thing to the right-hand side. So click that bottom right vertex, click the end of the line segment, click on Constrain Coincident, and now we have a fully constrained sketch, so we can close out of the Sketcher workbench. Now we're going to create a pocket that drops this edge down 19 millimeters. So create pocket, 19 millimeters. And now we have a ledge that will hold onto the battery box and will allow us to push it in and pull it out when we need to change the batteries. To get rid of some of this extra plastic at the front of our frame now, we're going to use the fillet tool. So I'm going to click on that top right edge, I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to click on that top left edge, and I'm going to click on the fillet tool, and I'm going to give it a fillet of 19 millimeters, and that brings the fillet right down to the top of the ledge that we just created. And now we're going to create some holes on the top of the frame that go all the way through. We'll be using the holes on the top of the frame later for attaching a support platform that our Arduino Uno is going to be bolted to. The holes at the bottom of this frame will be used for bolting or screwing the support frame to our SparkBot base platform. So begin by left-clicking on that top face and clicking on Create Sketch. We're going to center the frame in our view here. And we're going to create 4 circles. It does not need to be very precise to begin with, so just create 4 relatively randomly spaced circles. And we're going to begin by setting all of the diameters of the circle to be equal. So select all 4 circle diameters, click on Constrain Equal, and now we're going to set the diameter of all of them by coming up here to Constrain Diameter, and we'll set it to 2.8 millimeters. Now we need to position these holes. I'm going to click in the center of the first circle on the left and click on the second circle, and I'm going to use the Constrain Vertical tool, and FreeCAD will automatically select whether it's constrain horizontal or constrain vertical based on your selection. So I can come down here and click on constrain vertical, but FreeCAD 1.0 will just simply allow me to click on this tool, and the constrain vertical will be automatically selected by FreeCAD. I'm going to do the same thing for the holes on the right hand side and constrain them vertically. And now I'm going to constrain these holes across the top horizontally. So click in the center of both those circles, constrain them horizontally, click on the centers of both circles at the bottom, constrain them horizontally. And so now if I move one circle, the corresponding circle on the other 2 corners will move. And we're now going to make these 2 circles so that they're symmetric, these 2 top circles, so they're symmetric around the y-axis. So I'm going to click on the center of the first circle on the left, click on the second circle on the right, click on the y-axis, and click on Constrain Symmetric. And so now when I move one circle, the other ones will move in a corresponding and opposite direction. Now we need to lock these circles into place. The first thing we need to do is set the distance between the 2 circles on the left-hand side. So click on the center of the circle at the top on the left, click on the center of the circle at the bottom of the left, and we're going to set the distance between them to 35 millimeters. And we have 2 degrees of freedom left that we need to constrain, and that is the distance of this circle relative to the bottom left corner here. We could pick any corner of our frame to do it, but I'm going to do it relative to the bottom left corner, so I have to use the external geometry reference tool here to pull in the edge of the frame, and I'm going to make it so that this bottom left hole is a height of 6 millimeters away from the bottom corner here. And the last degree of freedom here is the distance from the edge. And I'm going to set that by clicking in the center of the bottom left circle, clicking on the end of our line segment here, and I will constrain that horizontally to 3 millimeters. And so now the 4 circles are fully constrained, and I can close out of the Sketcher workbench for this part. We're going to make these holes go all the way through the frame, so we are going to again pocket these parts for 25 millimeters, and that will mean that the holes go from the top all the way out through the bottom. The last thing that we need to do for the battery frame here is we need to create a little ledge for the 6-volt battery pack to sit on. And the reason for this is that we have a caster block that has to be attached to the bottom of the frame. And so we need to raise the 6-volt battery pack up off the SparkBot platform to make room for the screws that are holding the caster block retainer to the other side of the SparkBot base. So we're going to click on the inside face of one of the sides and click on Create Sketch. And we're going to click on this View Section tool so that we can look directly at our sketch without any geometry in the way. And we're going to need to bring in these two edge lines so that we can lock our geometry to the sides. So I've brought in these two small edges here, and now I'm going to use the Create Rectangle tool, and I'm going to do this the long way so that you can see every step. So I'm just going to create a box on the face of the geometry, and I'm going to grab this bottom left corner of the box, and I'm going to click on the bottom end of this line segment, and I will constrain coincident. So now the edge of the box is locked to that line. I will do the same thing for the bottom right-hand corner of this box and constrain it to the right-hand line. And the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the constrain symmetric tool, and I'm going to lock this box that we're creating to the midpoint of this line. So to do that, I'm going to click on the top of that line segment. I'm going to click on the bottom right-hand corner of the box. I'm going to click on the top right corner of the box, and then I will click on Constrain Symmetric, and now the box is locked. Now this line segment here is 6 millimeters, so that means that by constraining it to the center of this line, we've made a ledge that is going to be 3 millimeters high, and that's more than enough room to create some clearance for the screws that hold the caster block retainer to the other side of the board. So we're fully constrained, so we can close this out. And now we're going to pad this sketch out 3 millimeters. And that creates a nice little ledge for the 6-volt battery pack to sit on. Now we have to do the same thing on the other side. So rotate your view so you can see the other inside face. Click on it. Click on Create Sketch. Again, once more, click on View Sections so you can see the sketch. I'm going to use that external geometry reference tool, bring in the same two lines as we did on the other side. And this time I'm going to be more direct about what I'm doing. So this time I'm going to directly click on the vertex at the bottom of that line segment. And I'm going to come all the way over to this other line here, and I'm going to make sure it turns blue, and then I'm going to right click to lock our box there. And now all I need to do is click on the bottom left-hand corner of the box, click on the top of the line segment, click on the top left-hand corner of that box, and use the Constrain Symmetric tool, and all degrees of freedom have been fully constrained. So I can close out of this, and just like the other side, pad it out to 3 millimeters. So at this point in time, we now have a useful retaining frame that we can use to hold the 6-volt battery box.